All right, Assalamualaikum everyone. Is my voice audible?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So we apologize for starting late. There's some technical issues and also we might start late as well because we are lack of gadgets right now. So we will inform and update you if anything. So let's start with the roll call. As usual, please do say present or here when I call your name. All right, starting with team A, we have Sister Hadia. Are you there?
Here.
All right, thank you. Brother El Haidari, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, thank you. Sister Nur Anis, are you there?
Yes. Here.
Thank you. All right, going for team B, we have Brother Ami Idris. Are you there?
Yes.
Brother Ami Idris?
Here.
Yes, all right, thank you. And then we have Sister Hanani. Are you there? Sister Hanani, are you there? All right, never mind. Brother Ikram, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. Do remind your teammate to enter the call. All right, next for team C, we have Sister Shazia. Are you there? All right, never mind. Sister Atika Natasha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you. Sister Nisrina Nabiha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you. Please do remind your teammate to enter the call. And then going for team D, we have Sister Ali Fatiha. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right, thank you. Brother Wafi Izzuddin, are you there?
He goes to the toilet a bit.
All right. Thank you. Brother Said Ibrahim, are you there? Brother Said Ibrahim, are you there? All right, never mind. Do remind your teammates to enter the call. For team E, Brother Said Naufal, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, thank you. Brother Ali Shazani, are you there? Brother Ali Shazani, are you there? All right, never mind. Brother Adam Hakimi, are you there? Brother Adam Hakimi, are you there? Okay, never mind. I'll check that. Please do remind your teammates to enter the call. Please, so for the last team, Team L, Sister Atifa, are you there?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Brother Ilyas, are you there? Brother Ilyas, are you there? All right, never mind. Brother Arish Yazwan, are you there?
Ilyas is also here. What's
All right. So do remind your teammates to enter the call. Okay, so we're done with roll call, and in a minute I'll be presenting to you guys the motion as told yesterday, and also the results for yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, assalamualaikum everyone. I'm back. So we can present the results now. Oh no. Um, Give me a second. All right, so here's yesterday's motion. This House would institute a family income-based tuition fee system in universities. And here are the results. Oh, wait a minute. Eh, Itu. Okay, wait. All right, so here are the results. For room one, session one, we have team B versus team A, and the motion is accepted with a margin of 6.5. And then room two, session two, we have team C and team D. The motion is rejected with a margin of 2. And last but not least, we have session three, room three, team E versus team F. The motion is rejected with a margin of 5. All right, so as told yesterday, here is your motion. This House would ban the use of large language models such as GPT in universities. So I'm about to present the matchup. However, regarding the timing to start debate session is quite crucial at the moment because we are still searching for one more judge for room two. So do bear with us. And in the meantime, I would allow you guys to start your quarantine session. All right, can you guys see my screen? If yes, here is the matchup for round three. So please do take note of that and you guys can enter the breakout room. Thank you. I'll also share the matchup in the WhatsApp group.
universities. So this one is we're pushing human skills in universities. So it's very student centric. But for the second point, preserve human expertise, you have to say why or these universities they produce graduates which are expected to work. So those people who work, they have to have the human expertise. You faham tak? They need to have emotion. They need to have emotional intelligence. But those are the ones we really need to push because those are the ones which are mutually exclusive. Emotional intelligence, patience,
So basically,
perseverance.
like how this human expertise is needed outside of university lah kan?
Yeah. Sekejap I nak tulis the. I just want to get my prep paper ready.
So like we are saying that the ChatGPT is have many limitations, right?
Yeah. That's true. Okay.
And probably third thing that we can mention is that ChatGPT doesn't have citations in the answers that it gives, which makes it very difficult for students to actually use it within assignments, right? To plagiarize it. They can use the information as a guide within their assignments, but it's hard to plagiarize that. Okay. Okay, next thing that we need to characterize or frame is when we're talking about the usage of ChatGPT in in universities, in the context of this debate, what exactly are we talking about, right? So what is this debate about? So it's about maybe using ChatGPT in assignments, using ChatGPT for daily studies, using ChatGPT for exams. That's what this debate is about. Right? Oh, actually, let's leave out exams because exams you can't even access laptop, right? So
Yeah.
okay, let me teach you guys something. This is called a burden push. Okay, a burden push is you push to opposition that they need to prove something. So their whole case is going to be that we are using ChatGPT to plagiarize assignments. We need to push the burden. Why is it likely that a short answer without citations is able to pass as usage within an assignment? Do you get it? Why are we why is it even likely that you can use that?
Or okay.
By using ChatGPT. So even if it's work, so that's in a case preparing for the workforce. Now this AI, they cannot work on their own. They need human control, as in they need input from human. So why not university, instead of banning, teach student how to use proper AI and revamp the syllabus, change the syllabus to be more student friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, this one we can be a bit emotional. We can use our experience.
For example,
How how about you give an example? Like, what do you think your assignment that is repetitive, that is the same thing over and over again? Hadia?
yeah,
Okay, let me start. I think writing a 100 essay 5 times as a part of your assignment is repetitive.
yes,
Isn't it good that I can write essay with less word that only require 1 page to summarize the whole 3-page document instead of writing one 3-page essay of a 3-page document?
I didn't get it.
Okay, it's like, how do I say this? Okay, part of my assignment is that I need to write an essay,
Okay,
but I need to read the document first. I need to read that document.
uh-huh,
I need to write the essay. That document
okay,
is 3 pages long.
okay,
My essay need to be 3 pages long.
oh, okay,
So basically, what I'm doing is that I've just copied the document, paste it into my essay, but I change the word to looks like I'm the one who's writing it.
you paraphrase it.
Paraphrase it, yeah, I'm paraphrasing it instead
Okay,
of summarizing it. Because if I
uh-huh,
summarize it, they will deduct my marks.
yes, yes,
So isn't that repetitive? Isn't that a job that you can outsource to AI? Like
yes,
teaching AI how to read this article, read this document, and find me the key point so I can put it in my summarization, and then I use my own word to describe those key points.
yes, yes.
Those are the
Actually, something like called Quillbot or something, it's already doing that, right? Paraphrase tool.
Quillbot. I think I need that. Well, okay, I'm putting that in my list.
Yeah.
Oh, it's this one has a grammar check, right?
Yes, it has grammar check, paraphrase tool.
it will be incomplete. Uh, because the data is not is not thorough. The data inserted when ChatGPT is programmed is not thorough because the programmers are not people who are credible in academic settings. Because the
And the are still like benefiting in a certain way.
I see. Tak apa.
Because on our side, they still have to do some work. But on their side,
No,
they
tak perlu.
do the shit.
Hi, is everyone here?
Iman is all here. Government is all here.
Is opposition all here?
We're still waiting for one more person.
All right. Can you just give me your speaking order, government? Government?
First speaker, Atifa. Second
Actually,
speaker.
okay, just type in the chat. That'll be easier.
Alright.
Same for opposition. You can just type in the chat. And who else are we waiting for just now? Opposition?
We're waiting for our second speaker.
Okay, where is he or how long will he take? Opposition.
I tried contacting here.
Okay. Was she with you during prep just now?
Yes.
Okay, please ask her to hurry up. It's already 5 minutes plus.
The government first speaker went to the toilet, jap.
Okay. Okay lah, just let me know when everyone is here from your team.
Okay, the government is all here.
The op is also here.
Okay. Is chairperson here?
Yes.
Okay, chairperson. Okay, I'll call the house to order. I'll just read on the motion that this house will ban the use of large language models, such as ChatGPT in universities. I call upon the government team to start the debate. Chairperson, you can set up the time. Yeah. Just as a reminder, also keep your own time. All right. Okay. PM, you may start.
One moment. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The biggest concern which brings the motion into existence here today is the fact that students are continuing to use LLMs in their studies. This takes the form of asking for points, asking ChatGPT to compile information for them, and taking inspiration for essays, so on and so forth. So let's talk about the characterization, which is essential for the debate here today. Number one, what are LLMs? LLMs are essentially AI chatbots with answer parts provided by AI chatbots, which provide answers for prompts provided by these students. It uses a massive information on the internet. It compiles this information and provides it towards the student. One thing that we would like to point out is the fact that LLMs have not been known famously to not necessarily be accurate. This can be seen in one of the most powerful LLMs in the world, in ChatGPT, in which has been found time and time again to not necessarily be accurate because it does not rely on a form of accuracy, but rather it relies on a form of what is massively available on the internet. Now, within the context of these students, it's seen as a shortcut. In their education. They use it to get information quickly when they don't want to go through the effort of scanning for and finding particular information. We want to make it very, very clear that these LLMs are not Google searches. It eliminates the key element of seeking for these particular sources and even interpreting them due to the fact that the chatbot is doing it for them. So let's talk about the universities in question here today and the purpose of these universities. Naturally, there are two. Number one, to produce these quality graduates, and the way that they wish to do this is by number two, providing a quality education. These are two things which we will prove to you is mutually exclusive towards the government side. Ladies and gentlemen, what do these quality graduates look like? They look like people who, number one, are scoring well in their academics, getting good grades, and number two, people who have good interpersonal skills, such as drive, empathy, discipline, adaptability, and critical thinking. These are human elements which are only achievable on our side, and even if they're achievable on the other side, we will also prove to you what is done better on our side. Let's talk about the mechanism of side government here today, how we plan to implement this. We believe in a complete ban of LLM use for studies in universities. We would like to point out that the things available in the status quo are still in place. For example, university libraries, Google, plagiarism, so on and so forth. We like to return to the world that we lived in before the world of ChatGPT, a world where students were not reliant on these bots, on these chatbots in order to further their studies. Now, we'll be talking about two major things here today. Number one, how students are disincentivized to develop essential abilities due to the existence of these LLMs. And number two, how these students are actually more burdened by their studies under opposition's world. That is the world where they are allowed to use ChatGPT in universities. So on to my point about how students will be disincentivized to develop these essential abilities. Why is this true? We believe that LLMs can be seen as an easy route. When we characterize students, what students are in and of themselves, they are known to want to take easy routes. This can be seen. This is evident through systems such as these companies, which rely on the students paying them simply to do their assignments. This can be seen through the existence of plagiarism in itself and the fact that it's so common within these universities. However, the one big difference between these particular issues which currently exist and things like ChatGPT is the fact that these things have deterrents. For example, plagiarism, we have plagiarism checkers. Into your assignment done. Into get assignments done. The fact that you have to pay for it in and of itself. The thing that is kind of act as a deterrent. The thing that we side government would like to highlight is just how accessible ChatGPT is to these students, how easy it is for them to skip through the long routes and to choose this easiest route in order to get information. Now, why is this a bad thing? Because previously, the easiest route for these students was to collaborative work. When you were having trouble with your studies, you would focus on things like meeting your lecturers, class discussions, so on and so forth, talking to your friends, asking their opinions. There was a sense of collaboration, a sense of interaction, which is something which is so crucial within the university space that was being utilized by these students. However, students will no longer be incentivized to engage in these collaborative efforts due to the fact there's something far more convenient towards them. Another thing that we will highlight is that even though there is this sense of convenience, it is not as simple as that. We would like to highlight that these LLMs, due to the fact that they simply take a mass of information from the internet, these LLMs are in fact objective and they take away the sense of interpretation. That's number one. Why this sense of interpretation so important? This brings me to the impact of this point. Why it takes away the sense, interpretation. And the reason why this interpretation is so important is because when we talk about these university students, the things that they study, it's not just about memorizing. It's not just about compiling information. These are the things that ChatGPT can do for these students. However, there's the element of interpretation that the students will now rely on these LLMs to do for them, which they are no longer doing for themselves. Because when we talk about a quality graduate, we're not just talking about somebody who is able to get good grades or produce good papers, but even in a good paper in and of itself and a good student in and of itself, these are people who are able to make do with that information and apply it, interpret it according to a particular context. This is something that ChatGPT cannot do for them. It is something that they have to do. A second impact that we would like to point out is that they lose out on opportunities to have these essential skills, not just this interpretation, but also things like perseverance, critical thinking. These are things which no longer exist in the new easiest route proposed due to the existence of these LLMs within these universities. Things like perseverance. Why would you persevere when somebody else can do your work for you? Why would you apply critical thinking when you can rely on something else to do that critical thinking for you for free? And it's super accessible. All you need is your phone. Now, another major impact of these people, major impact of this is the fact that now there are students will be lesser able to put the information that they learn and they collect into good use. As previously stated, they no longer need to interpret it in within a particular context. Something which is crucial towards every single degree, particularly in spaces such as social sciences, such as the arts, such as architecture, so on and so forth. Things which have that subjective element towards them need to be treated as such within the studies. This is something that ChatGPT cannot provide for them. And overall, the biggest impact is the degradation of human expertise. Because when we talk about quality impact, we're talking about when we're talking about quality students, we're talking about these students which we expect to move into the workplace. By reducing the quality of these students, you are in fact reducing the quality of the workers which go out into our world. Ladies and gentlemen, with all those reasons, we, side government, have never been prouder to support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the Prime Minister. After every speech, just give me 1 minute to gather my thoughts and write down some remarks. I will let you know when I'm done, then you can continue the next speaker. Okay. Leader of Opposition.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So first of all, huge thanks to Atifa for teaching me how to use ChatGPT yesterday, so at least I know how to debate this motion. 2 pieces of framing responses are integrated throughout my speech. Firstly is what do large language models look like? It looks like 3 things. First of all, it looks like objective presentation of facts. So this clearly rebuts everything that Atifa mentioned, that there is interpretation within ChatGPT itself. That is unlikely to be true, given that even when ChatGPT involves some form of interpretation, it provides the counter interpretation. So if you were to ask it about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it'll give you both perspective and decide for it and ask for you to decide. Second thing is that usually it involves very short answers, therefore it's limited to about 200 words, and as such it is unable and insufficient to form a proper basis to base your entire assignment on. And as such, that takes away all value that of the argument that you're going to use it to like plagiarize your assignment. Third is that it usually doesn't have citations, and as such, it becomes very hard for you to like determine what exactly is the source. And as such, it's most likely not going to be relied on entirely by students to base their entire academic life on. Second piece of framing is what does usage within universities look like, right? It looks like using it within like, maybe assignments or like daily studies, but all in all, probably, to get some form of information just to get a better grasp of what the subject is. Here's the burden that Govs need to prove, right? Why is it likely that this ChatGPT is most likely going to be entirely used within assignments? We're perfectly fine with it being used as like, prompts or like slightly being used in assignments, but why is it likely that the entirety of the information that's been given by ChatGPT is going to be used as a basis within assignments? Here's our stance. We don't think that you should ban ChatGPT at all, and we think it's perfectly fine for you to use it within universities, even to use it to like, help you out within your assignments. Here's a metric that this debate should be adjudicated with. OP doesn't have to prove that ChatGPT is good. We just need to prove that it's not harmful to the point where it takes out all academic value out of university academics as a whole. Two burdens then. Number one, that even if there are harms of ChatGPT, it doesn't warrant a ban. But secondly, banning it might cause more harm to education within universities. For this argument then, even if there are harms of ChatGPT, it most likely doesn't warrant a ban for structural reason that it doesn't allow students to get an easy pass within universities as what government is trying to like come up here and claim, right? Why is this true? Three reasons. The first is that any information which is given by ChatGPT is extremely limited extremely limited. Most assignments have a minimum word count or minimum page count that you need to achieve, and as such, it's very unlikely that students are going to rely and base their entire assignment out of this particular ChatGPT. It's perfectly fine for them to rely on it in small amounts, because if they were to rely on it in small amounts, I don't see the distinction between ChatGPT and something which is clearly allowed, which is like Googling for information out there. So that's the distinction that Gov needs to come up here and make clear. But secondly, is that oftentimes assignments are very complicated in nature, and this is something which is clearly missed out by like what Gov set up, right? Assignments are so complicated to the point where even AI like ChatGPT is unable to basically do it efficiently. Usually there are very detailed instructions of how you're going to do it, how you should do it, and as such, ChatGPT is not sophisticated enough to the point where they can actually hit all of the like rubrics or like all of the information, all of the instructions which are required, right? Third reason is, which is like, taking Gov at their best, even if ChatGPT is that good and students can rely on it entirely, universities already have things such as plagiarism testers and plagiarism checkers, which are actually really good in nature and can detect plagiarism. And as such, given that the impacts of, or like the, repercussions of plagiarism is so serious on students, it's unlikely that students are going to want to base their entire assignment off of ChatGPT, given that they might be suspended or banned or they might fail the particular subject. So it's unlikely that it's going to happen. Why is this argument particularly important, right? Two reasons why it's important. Number one, it is clear proof that ChatGPT is not as good as what government says. It's still nascent in its development, and as such, it's unlikely that students are even able to rely on it entirely, which basically takes out all of the value of the argument that it's going to make students not want to work hard, because students are still going to have to work hard due to the fact that ChatGPT is not good enough to substitute the hard work of a human being. Secondly, is that students are unlikely to want to copy paste all of the information from ChatGPT, and this takes Gov at their best. Even if ChatGPT is that good and is like, a shortcut to your academic life, given the repercussions of things such as being caught for plagiarism, it's unlikely that students are going to want to copy paste all of this. Like, think about it, right? The parallel of ChatGPT, which is like articles written on like Google and stuff like that, already exists, and students don't necessarily copy paste this because they know that if they get caught for plagiarism, that's when they're going to fail the subject, that's when they're going to be suspended from university. All of this already exists. The reason as to why government uses this case is because I'm unclear up until this point what's the fundamental distinction between ChatGPT and something which is already allowed, like resources which are already on Google and on the internet. I think that they need to make this clear. Second structural reason as to why the harms don't necessarily warrant a ban is that the difference between ChatGPT and Googling, which is something allowed, is quite marginal. And this is like elaboration of what I just mentioned, right? Why is this true? 3 reasons. Number one, you still need to know the right questions to ask, which probably means that there still needs to be some form of intellect and intuition that you put into ChatGPT, right? You need to know exactly what to ask it in order to get the right questions. But secondly, it's likely that you're incentivized to further research given that the answers within ChatGPT are quite short, and as such, it's going to pique your interest. You need to further research as to like what ChatGPT says and reconfirm whether or not it's true. But third reason is that students still need to put effort in the subjective element. This is because ChatGPT doesn't give you a subjective answer to certain things. It doesn't give you an interpretation to facts. Rather, it just gives you cold hard facts. It might give you differing opinions, but that's about it. It's still up to the student's discretion to choose exactly which interpretation to follow and which interpretation they want to include within their assignments. Why is this argument particularly important, right? 2 reasons. Number one, notice that academic value is vested in the interpretation of the information itself. This is something agreed upon between government and all. However, the fundamental difference that we mentioned is that ChatGPT is not good enough to actually give interpretation to the students itself. But even if ChatGPT is able to give interpretation, oftentimes the students can disagree with the interpretation, and as such, that subjective element is still vested within the academic process itself, and as such, giving the academic process the value that both sides of the house agreed upon. But secondly, is that internally students want some form of credibility, and as such, they most likely do not want to base their answers entirely on ChatGPT. They are most likely going to do further research because they want, creds and like praises from lecture or something like that. And as such, there's an internal incentive for them not to be lazy people. So for all the reasons Park proposed, thank you.
Okay, thank you to Leader of Opposition. Give me 1 minute. Okay, thank you, the Leader of Opposition. I'll now invite the DPM to continue the debate. You may start whenever.
Give me a moment.
Oh.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. So, going back to the characteristic given by my Prime Minister, she said that the purpose of university is to produce good quality education and good quality graduates. She has explained to us how through ChatGPT, through these LLMs, you can't produce a good quality graduates. And now in my speech, I will explain to you why with ChatGPT, university can't produce a good quality in education. But before that, let me go into my rebuttals. First of all, the Leader of Opposition states that LLMs are very hard for people to completely be reliable. But this is an assumption because we have stated before in our characteristic that these large language models are very convenient, are very to use, and people would like to take a shortcut. People want to take a shortcut, and if something that is very so there is more higher chance and high likely for people to rely more on LLMs just because of their convenience. And also, the Leader of Opposition stated that we don't actually state the fundamental distinction between LLMs and like Google searching information on Google. But my Prime Minister has stated that these LLMs are very different than Google searches because they simply compile information, massive information, in some kind of an essay or a paragraph. And not only that, the information on that is not very reliable. It is not very accurate. This is because LLMs don't really like properly search on what is accurate, but rather what is available at that moment, because what is largely available. And unlike Google searches will give you a ton of results in which you can choose and read and either accept, or you can like exit and then you search more for results, which is vastly different than AI chat models that just give you an answer, give you a summarized answer in which you yourself don't know is it accurate or not. And also, last rebuttal, that a leader of opposition said that students won't rely 100% on AI searches as they are short, and as they don't really as they're short. So this is like an underestimation, because even though they are short, the information produced from the AI chatbot from ChatGPT are not 100% reliable. And those points taken from these language models will most likely be taken into the assignment, and that assignment itself can be proven to be can go awful if the information that's taken is actually false in nature. And also, they stated that it's short. The word produced is short. Have you ever used ChatGPT? Because once you can keep asking for more after they give you a set of results, a set of like a paragraph of maybe some ideas. You can ask for more ideas from there, meaning that it's endless. What ChatGPT can actually produce is actually endless. Now, moving on to my argument and I would prove to you why these large language models.
PI, please.
No thanks. Why these large language models are actually increasing more burdens to the students. So, like I said before, like the characteristics stated before, these large language models by nature are very convenient. They are easy to use. Everybody can use it. Thus, it puts the burden on like each student to, oh, maybe I should use ChatGPT. Maybe I should use ChatGPT for their research, because when a lot of people use it because of how easy to use, then most people will mistake it to like a search engine. Like what's happening, we can actually see what's happening in reality, because a lot of people mistook ChatGPT as a search engine and think that the data gained from the search engine is actually reliable. Well, in reality, what ChatGPT only does is just summarize information, gather a lot of information and put it in one compact way. And in the end of the day, it does not really produce any good data. But just because it's AI and it's convenient by nature, a lot of people tend to believe in so. So this is bad, because then a lot of people have to try to adapt to ChatGPT when how to put prompt in ChatGPT. And not only that, like I stated before, this is bad because the data from ChatGPT itself isn't accurate. Then you are putting more burden on people, because you have these students have to search for more. You're just giving them more work for them to search like a pop. Where is the citation? Or is it really true? So it's basically counterproductive to use ChatGPT, and plus it's also very harmful because, like I said, people will rely on ChatGPT. A lot of people will rely on ChatGPT, and in the long run, under their world, people will think ChatGPT as something very important, when in reality it isn't. When in reality, to do your research, you don't need to learn how to properly use ChatGPT. You don't need how to rely on ChatGPT. You don't need to like actually use ChatGPT. You don't, because in the end of the day, ChatGPT does not provide better knowledge or better data. It only as a tool, but even though it simply function as a tool, it is harmful in the long run because a lot of people rely on it. A lot of people rely on its convenience and mistook it for its actual function. So, in the end of the day, my argument disproves the leaders of opposition entire case because their entire case built solely on the fact that ChatGPT does not need to be banned because there is less likely to be reliable, to be relied by students. While in reality, a lot of students will rely on ChatGPT, and if they're lazy to the point, they will completely rely on ChatGPT and does not even look for other sources of citation. Because in the end of this, ChatGPT is very easy to use, and people like to use very easy and simple things just to get their job done. So, with that, go to site government.
Okay. Thank you to DPM. Again, give me 1 minute. All right. Thank you, DPM. Let's invite the DLO.
Okay, am I audible?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. So as the opposition side for today, we firmly believe that embracing technology and innovative tools like ChatGPT is crucial for the advancement of education in digital age. In my speech, I will present compelling arguments and evidence to demonstrate by banning ChatGPT would impact learning, hinder critical thinking, and stifle academic progress. So education has always been a dynamic field, evolving alongside advancements in technology. It's essential for university to adapt and leverage this advancement to provide students with the best possible learning experience. So ChatGPT, as a powerful language model, offers students access to vast knowledge resources, helps stimulate creative thinking, and promotes efficient research. By banning ChatGPT, we risk limiting students' access to these invaluable tools and depriving them of the opportunity for growth and explorations. So, but with our second evidence, which from the opposition side, which is banning might cause more harm in education in university. So ChatGPT is a progressive learning tool. It represents a progressive learning tool that leverage artificial intelligence and natural language processing to provide interactive and dynamic interactions. So it engages students in meaningful conversations, aids them in problem solving, and helps them develop communication skills in digital contexts. So this would help the students that are not capable of to do so. This will help them briefly so that they can learn or integrate their skills more further. So progressions of education. Education is an evolving field that constantly embrace new technology and any method to advance in educations, also technology. So ChatGPT, as part of the digital revolutions, offers an opportunity to develop, offers opportunity to advance the learning experience by implementing the AI capabilities. So by banning ChatGPT, the education system would impact its own progression and miss out on the potential benefits that such tools can bring to the students. So next, by banning this LLMs, it will hindering adaptation to the digital revolution. In today's digital age, it is essential for students to adapt to technological advancements. So ChatGPT represents one aspect of the digital revolutions, and exposure to such technology prepares students for the modern workforce. So where digital literacy and AI competency are becoming increasingly important, so banning ChatGPT would hinder students' ability to adapt with that. And if like the second minister from the government said, like ChatGPT just gather informations from anywhere and compact it in one informations. So I think it's kind of clashing with what he is saying, that it is inaccurate. But he is saying that the information is gathered from all the websites and all the articles. So next, university adaptations. Apparently, universities often at the
AI?
forefront of embracing, yes.
So you said I need ChatGPT to adapt to technology advancement, but we still have like a plagiarism or a plagiarism checker or Grammarly. So why do we specifically need this ChatGPT?
Okay, so we need this ChatGPT first of all because it's helping students to improve in their educations, improve in their critical thinkings, and this will help them get their first look on something and develop the ideas to do their assignment, to know about something, or in advance they can learn further about the topics they want. And the adaptations is like, if you are saying that they are plagiarism checkers, right? So why banning it at the first place? The university will adapt itself. So the university will provide the guidelines and the framework that can restrict them, that can check the plagiarism. If it's happened, there is plagiarism checkers. So what you want to worry about? So next is universities is often at the forefront of embracing these emerging technologies in education. So many institutions have already integrated like various form of LLMs into their curriculum. So in fact, the Microsoft itself want to okay, the Microsoft itself want to they want to apa tu, adopting they want to adopt this artificial intelligence LLMs into the educations or into their apps to help students develop more. So by banning ChatGPT, it will create disconnect between the university's commitment to innovation and the restrictions imposed on students' access to these tools. Right. Next, rather than a ban, it's more appropriate to establish guidelines and frameworks for the responsible and effective use of ChatGPT in universities. It's like you adapting with the Google, with the Wikipedia, with the internet. So with the Wikipedia, at first it is famous because you have all the informations. But when we adapting to it, we know that it is not reliable sources. So it's like ChatGPT. We're gonna adapt it, and at certain times we will know that it is not a reliable one. So the student itself, the education itself will advance more and use other methods. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, dear O. Give me 1 minute. Okay, let's invite the Gulfway.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, but your audio is not so great. Maybe you can move closer to the mic.
Hello, am I audible?
Slightly better.
Right. So, okay.
Maybe
I
just also speak a bit louder.
Okay, so I will start my speech
Sure.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. All right. So this house would ban the use of large language models such as ChatGPT in universities. So our worldview that the use of LLM in university students has been decreasing the value of human expertise in terms of critical thinking skills, skills of summarizing, and long information from reading materials. So our view that ChatGPT is not is one of the unreliable source because they generate information from the mass information from the internet. Your view that LLM can be used just for small amounts. Better for us to leave it the LLM or ban LLM since they have many unreliable information, even just for small amounts. If you want to use it, so better we just leave it actually. Right. So I'll go on for my first rebuttal. All right. So the first speaker has mentioned that students are unlikely to copy paste all of the information that are generated by the LLM, such as the ChatGPT. Um, I think I kind of disagree on this part because although the information that they copy still a little, but they are still unknown to accuracy because the LLM has many unreliable sources, as I mentioned earlier. So therefore, students
UI, please.
still like to copy paste still like to copy paste the information. Second is because ChatGPT, whenever they generate the sources, ChatGPT do not cite the sources and they do not give the reference to the reliable sources. Right. My second rebuttal is that some students tend to do further research after using the LLM such as ChatGPT. Even though that's true, but I think that kind of contradicts to the previous point, which is that student copy paste some of the information. All right. Uh, since that you said that students are unlikely to copy paste the information, so why would they do further research? Most of the students just would likely to continue on doing their assignments or their project without doing the further research if they are just to copy paste the full information from ChatGPT. Right. Next is by check. So the second speaker of the opposition team have mentioned that by banning ChatGPT, it limits the students by using useful tools, by using technological tools. Um, I think this is disagree because I kind of disagree because there are many other useful tools other than LLM for utilizing or to get information, especially ChatGPT, such as like our Prime Minister has mentioned, like Google Scholar, or in our case, the IUM Dar Al Hikmah online, so that we can use it to get information easier, other than using LLM. And education system will also will not be affected even after banning ChatGPT because before the existence of ChatGPT, students still learning and doing the study just fine without any struggles, just like they feel right now. Also, ChatGPT it's not an AI tool that can contribute to the technological development. ChatGPT is just an AI that provide information for students to quickly do their revision or to do their study or research. That's it. Um, the plagiarism checkers. Okay. Since the previous speaker said that why should we ban ChatGPT since we have plagiarism checkers. All right. Plagiarism checkers are to check whether students plagiarize from real sources, from real articles or real journals. So therefore, however, ChatGPT, they are not information taken from the real sources. They are just an AI tool that just generate sentences, that just generate ideas by continuing the next point by using the artificial intelligence. And
Go ahead, please.
uh, sorry, thank you. And also, other than plagiarism checkers, we also have AI bot checkers, which is another type of sorry. Um, all right, my last point is that ChatGPT helps in critical thinking. I think this is false because ChatGPT takes away that particular skill for students. Because why would they help in critical thinking since they want to use ChatGPT? All right, critical thinking is for students just to use without rely on any technological tools. All right, therefore, ChatGPT helps with critical thinking is entirely false for it. And therefore, I think all right, I think that's for me. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Um, okay. In 1 minute. All right. Thank you, Gov. Let's have the opposition whip.
Hello, am I clear?
Yep.
All right. So I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. For the government side, they had made it clear that ChatGPT or LLMs are not accurate source of information. Yes, we can agree on that. And that is why I'm going to prove that why the opposition side should win this debate. Now, firstly, I'm going to rebut the points given out by the Prime Minister. Now, the Prime Minister has stated very clearly and throughout the debate, they said that LLMs does not give accurate information. Now, we both agree on this. Like I said, we both agree on this. They're not giving accurate information. But what I am unclear is, even though LLMs does not give accurate information, why does the Prime Minister stated that when students using this, they don't have any sense of interpretation, they don't have any sense of critical thinking. They know that ChatGPT or LLMs, the information is not accurate. So they need to interpret themselves, they need to expand it themselves, they need to make something new out of the information they get. All right. So that's why I'm unclear. In their world, they think that students are so stupid enough to copy paste what has been written, what has been given them by the LLMs, and just do it for their assignments without they knowing that their assignments are going to be checked by checker plagiarism. And if they have been found caughting, and if they have been caught in plagiarized, they will be banned. Students are not that stupid. All right, I'll take you in a minute. Okay, now, and the second thing is, when you say about these things are not accurate, like my opposition leader said that We know that is accurate, so we copy a bit of them and we interpret them based on our assignments, because our assignments are extremely difficult. The lectures given extremely difficult with the rubric. You know, we need to fulfill some of the criteria to get the full marks. And ChatGPT or any other LLMs cannot give you that criteria. Because why? Because they only have a limited word and they compile what they found on the web. Right. So, and another issue is taking the e-result by using these LLMs. Now, in their world, they're saying that if students are taking the LLMs, they rely on LLMs, they can just copy paste who and where. But if your assignment is regarding a 50-word essay and the ChatGPT only gives out 200 words, how are you going to do that? It's not an easy route. You need to expand it more. So in this case, we say, no, LLMs are not an easy route. We need to work. We need to determine whether the information that has been given to us is useful or not. So I think this is where our point stands, where it's not, first of all, it's not an easy route when you're using the LLMs. Secondly, although it is, because of its inaccuracy, we need to think, we need to have critical thinking, we need to have interpretation, the skill to interpret the information given out by the LLMs. So that's just demolishes the points given out by the Prime Minister. Now, secondly, about the second minister from the government side. Now, he said that when using, he said to us that we don't know how to use ChatGPT because of the limited words, people just type and get more results. I want to ask you, how is that different from Googling? When we do Google, we have just many results. So if you imply the same method, right, it's the same, Googling and ChatGPT, LLMs. We have a bunch, you can get a bunch of results from that. Okay, so you might say that, LLMs doesn't have, a research, a source, not a reliable source. Now, I think you don't understand how this AI or LLMs work. They are not human. They don't have a brain to, create their own sources. They must take the sources from somewhere, from a book or an article. They just don't display it. So how are we going to know that? By Googling it. All right, we take the information from the LLMs, we Google it, we find out which source did the LLMs get the information from. So assuming that that the ChatGPT or LLMs are a search engine is completely wrong. It's just an assumption, right? It's just an assumption because we know that they compile. They're just a compilation, and I who compiles information throughout the internet. Okay, and there are always the second speaker said that in the long run, people will rely on these LLMs too much. Now, there's an issue here too. This LLM is a type of AI, all right? Now, our world is turning on AIs. AIs are in the computer, in the electric, in cars, in our classroom. There are so many AIs. Now, if you say people are dependable on these LLMs, it should be, because we are now focusing on that particular area. Imagine 50 years ago, in universities, how do they do research? By books, by paper, by scrolls. During that time, internet seems like it is a discussing thing for academics because you don't know where are the research. But look at our times now. What has Google become? We have Google scholarships. When we do research in university now, do we really just use the facts from the books, from scrolls, from papers? No. We get the information. The first initiative is go to Google. Can you imagine in 10 years' time, we're going to any other LLMs, because at that point of time, like my second speaker said, they are more developed, they are more progress. People are more turning to AIs than search engines because they are more real, because they have been acknowledged by the society, just as the society not acknowledge the existence of Google Scholarship and all. All right, think about it. And for my last point, please don't stop the development of education by how saying the government doesn't want our education to progress, but to go back to the past. That's all from me. I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the whip. Chair, you can just start the timer for the reply speech. After 4 minutes, after it's up, then just proceed.
Now, it is time for the preparation of reply speeches. The time given for each team will be 1 minute. Debaters, please use the 1 minute to prepare your reply speeches.
Yep. Right, speaker, you can start.
Okay. I'll start my speech in 1, 2, and 3. So, as the opposition side today, we believe that the harms associated with ChatGPT do not warrant a complete ban. And furthermore, such a ban might actually cause more harm to education in universities. Firstly, the government has highlighted the potential harm of ChatGPT, such as plagiarism and over-reliance on the tool. While these concerns are valid, it is important to note that these issues can be addressed through proper guidelines and education rather than outright ban. By implementing clear instructions on the responsible use of ChatGPT, universities can mitigate the risk and ensure that students understand the importance of academic integrity. So, banning ChatGPT would deprive students of valuable learning resources. It is undeniable that ChatGPT has the potential to assist students in their assignments, research, and their critical thinkings. It can provide them with access to a vast amount of information and help them develop their writing and analytical skills. By banning ChatGPT, we would be limiting students' opportunities to learn and explore new ideas, which goes against the fundamental principles of education. So, moreover, in today's digital age, technology is increasingly integrated into various aspects of our life. By embracing tools like ChatGPT, universities can prepare students for the challenges and opportunities they will encounter in their future careers. Banning ChatGPT would hinder students' ability and the digital revolution itself by limiting their exposures to innovative learning methods. So it's also important to consider the practicality of a ban. ChatGPT is just one example of the many language models available today. If you ban one tool, students may simply find alternative ways to access the similar resources, the similar ones. Instead of banning, university should focus on educating students about responsible and ethical use of this technology, teaching them how to navigate their amount of information and assess its reliability. So, in conclusions, the harms associated with ChatGPT do not justify a ban, By implementing proper guidelines and education, universities can address these concerns while still allowing students to benefit from the potential advantages of the tool. So banning ChatGPT would be a reactionary approach that limits educational opportunities, hinders students' ability to adapt to the digital revolutions. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ops reply speaker. Let's have the Ops reply speaker to wrap up the debate.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. There are two very important questions that need to be answered by the end of in this debate, and I will prove to you why the government won by the end of this debate. So, first of all, which side improve education better? While the opposition side say that ChatGPT is needed to improve education, as technology is needed to adapt in education itself, this is simply like not true, because they paint it as ChatGPT as something that is very, very important in this contribution towards adapting education and technology. While in reality, ChatGPT is just, it does not improve. It does not improve like the integration of technology and education, because it's simply a tool that is less efficient than YouTube or other any tools like plagiarism or Grammarly. Because in the end of the day, you don't learn how to contribute, how to advance. I mean, in the end of the day, it's only a tool that like summarize something which you yourself can do, and besides that, if you yourself do your research, there are more higher chances of data and outcome of your research is better than what AI can, what this ChatGPT can give to the table. While in our world, we say that by banning ChatGPT, we improve the education system by maintaining the skills and the abilities that these students need for them to improve, for them to survive in the working place, to survive outside of uni. And we also state that it's very harmful, because then students need to learn how to use AI, ChatGPT, which ChatGPT is not the AI that is needed to make yourself adaptable in this world that has AI a lot, because this ChatGPT is quite actually insignificant, as was stated, because in the end of the day, you yourself can do it. You yourself can search it. It may be harder, but you yourself can do it, and you can have a more produced quality. And when that happens, you yourself, as a student, can gain these skills how to interpret data, how to properly summarize, or how to think critically, that ChatGPT cannot give you. Now, next question: which side proved their burden? Opposition side's burden keeps contradicting to each other. Their first speaker said that it does not warrant a ban, because people are less likely to rely on ChatGPT as such. But then they claim that ChatGPT is needed in order to advance technologically. This means that ChatGPT, it's actually very important, and people need to rely on it 100%. And in the end of the day, our side, our case, we prove to you that no, ChatGPT is not needed, because in the end of the day, what is more valuable is the skills you need, and we also prove that ChatGPT data cannot be very accurate, and thus it does necessitate a ban, because in the end of the day, it's okay to ban. Besides, the first speaker also said that people won't rely on it too much. So if people won't rely on it too much, then it is okay to ban, because ChatGPT holds zero value in this whole picture. And ending things up, in their world, maybe you can use ChatGPT to help you. But in the end of the day, the work it produces, you don't gain skills from it. You don't have high quality from it. And furthermore, you have to do more. You have to do more work, because data from ChatGPT is not accurate. While on the other side, we want students to have proper abilities and to know how to do things properly, in which we don't rely on ChatGPT, because we don't use it 100. We don't want to use ChatGPT, because we know that ChatGPT is practically useless in the end. So that's all from side government.
Okay, thank you for that speech. Give me some time to collect my thoughts and make the judgment. You can read in here. Hopefully in 10 minutes now. Probably in 10 minutes I'll be done. All right. Okay. I'm done with my decision. Is everyone here?
Yeah.
Is anyone here? Okay.
Love is here.
Can I just do a quick roll call? Government team, is Atifa here?
Yeah.
Ilyas?
Yeah.
Aris?
Here.
Op team, Ikram?
Yeah, here.
Hanani?
Yes.
And Amin. Okay. All right. I'll try to be quick about it. How I'll structure my feedback is first I'll just give my general comments. Second, I'll state the decision. And then third, I'll justify the decision or give the reasons why. Firstly, a general comment. Number one, both teams are underdeveloping the nature of LLMs, and this reflected in both teams being a bit too convenient in how actually is going to be implemented or applied in terms of the day-to-day lives of students. I guess I'll just go on a bit of constructive feedback in giving how this would have how you both teams could have actually made the debate richer in terms of the characterization of LLMs, because there are scattered characterizations throughout the debate. And I'll just give some examples, right? I think that when it comes to ChatGPT or other offshoots of ChatGPT, what happens is that there are, I think, as previously mentioned throughout the debate, the ideas or sentences are generated and they are able to cater towards the needs or wants that the person asking the question inputs. And it's not just you are able to create sentences or paragraphs, you're able to create resumes, you're able to create a working coding for certain programs. You're able to ask ChatGPT, for example, to create a lot of answers, and it's the finality of the answer that is different than, for example, just simply Googling or looking up into books, because ChatGPT or AI provides you with the final answer itself rather than you having to go through, you Google something, you get the resources, you have to choose and make those kinds of conclusions. And the thing with ChatGPT or the thing with LLMs in general, because they are trained on such a large scale information resource, because the information that they have is way more than any other platform or any other tools that exist out there. And what it looks like is that, yes, it can be inaccurate and it can also be accurate. And it all depends on how or what exactly people are researching for. I'll give you one example. In the US, there's actually one lawyer who got in trouble with the court because he asked ChatGPT to create a document that has a submission to the for a submission to the court. And inside the document, ChatGPT created non-existent case laws and non-existent facts that did not happen actually in the world. And when the judge called it out and the judge asked for the sources, ChatGPT created those sources. So this is an example of where ChatGPT can actually give you answers or the final answers that you actually want. However, it results in it being inaccurate. But at the same time, ChatGPT, when you actually look at universities, are also being implemented or being taken advantage of by students very haphazardly, because number one, they actually do, a lot of the students, and yeah, it happens a lot in the US, they like to copy paste. A lot of the students, they take the answers verbatim, and there are some cases where the answers are so similar to the students of the same class, the lecturer actually just decided to fail the whole test for the whole class and redo it. But at the same time, the plagiarism checker that exists, or that taken advantage of by professors or lecturers in those places are also inaccurate, are also not that reliable, because in some circumstances, the plagiarism checker for LLMs are actually saying that, oh, all students in the class are actually, did use ChatGPT, for example. And that can't be true. It can't be that suddenly, realistically, right? If you have a class of 100 people, you can't tell me that not one person is actually truthful enough to actually use ChatGPT or not use ChatGPT. And in that sense, right, I get it that there are a lot of varieties of characterization towards ChatGPT that exist out there. And this is where it lacks in the debate, because you're not telling me the circumstances that occur. You're not illustrating to me what is actually happening out there. And this is applicable to both teams, because not once I think I got a real life example of what is actually happening out there for me to naturally believe the characterization that you're using for your argument is the final and accurate characterization. Now, with that said, that tangent on ChatGPT aside, because there's such a lack of characterization throughout the debate, what boiled down to be was that there are three common characterizations that are agreed upon by both sides, which is firstly, LLMs are unreliable as the final answer, because both sides rely on it to some extent in defending your case. Secondly, guidelines and supervisions will be needed for students. And thirdly, student development is the key or the most important thing inside the debate. Now, with what I've said, the decision that I give the debate to is to the opposition side. And here is the reason why. It boils down to two main issues for me. Number one, which side allows for the better development for the student? And secondly, will there be sufficient check and balance? And this issue did not become to me the deciding factor, but it still was considered throughout the debate. So going to the first issue, which side allows for better development of students or the education system as a whole? At the start, government team came up with the idea that you need to have students develop holistically, and what this looks like is you developing your teamwork skills or any other kind of experiential skills that you need when you work with other people or when you go through hardship of looking for information. However, after the debate progresses, I don't think, number one, this was actually brought up enough by both sides, because both sides went on to focus on whether students will be developing critical thinking. But number two, in the first place, I think this holistic development was not impactful enough or was not explained enough for me to believe that this actually number one, very important issue in this debate, or number two, a very harmful circumstance that will occur if you actually adopt LLMs in university. With that in mind, let's look at the main contention, which is that which side allows for better critical thinking for students. Now, government said that government's whole argument or case relied upon two main premises, which is that number one, students will over-rely on LLM, and number two, LLMs are inaccurate sources of information. Looking at the first reasoning, which is that students will over-rely on ChatGPT, I think it's intuitive enough for me to believe that when you have resources that are very easily applicable, students will abuse it. I did buy that. However, the opposition then came and told us there are actually, number one, check and balances. Even though they're not perfect, there are check and balances that are sufficient enough to push students to actually want to not just copy paste. What this looks like is, for example, students having or needing to compare the different answers given similarly to how other tools work. And number two, you do want to not get in trouble, because if those plagiarism checkers exist, even if they're not perfect, you're going to at least feel scared to just take the answer verbatim. I think that when it comes to this over reliance point, I think that there was number one, no sufficient response from government side towards the premise that students are going to naturally be afraid. But number two, I think that throughout the debate, the government side acknowledged that there are other technological tools that are utilized by students, such as Google Scholar or Al Hikmah Library for UIA. And I think that in that sense, it does mean that government side acknowledge that there are technological tools that are going to be utilized by students. And with that in mind, I then need government to explain to me why LLMs particularly will be such an even bigger problem compared to students using Google or using Al Hikmah. Because number one, there's a lack of characterization for me to really buy that ChatGPT is such an all-powerful tool in the first place. But number two, an mechanization or an illustration of how actually it looks like when students use it. Because you need to tell me, for example, right? Oh, the reason why ChatGPTs are going to be the in thing, or students are going to over rely on it even more than other sources, because when you use ChatGPT, they already take into account Google Scholar. They already take into account, they can even take into account the nature of tone that you want to use. For example, you can say, oh, ChatGPT gave me a student essay on this topic, but don't make it sound too smart. You can do all those things with ChatGPT. And that kind of illustration did not appear in the debate for me to take into account that it's such a particularly different tool that students are now going to massively not care about the other repercussions that exist, and they will just copy paste. There are some characterizations given by government, right? You did say that it provides an answer. You can keep on asking questions, but it's similar. The way that it's presented to me is similar to how those other tools are. What's the difference between you just keep on looking at Google and then just keep on asking the question and looking at different resources? Because there's no distinction to be between the way those tools are used, especially when your argument is contingent upon students' nature and there is not enough sufficient characterization of how this would actually look like. I tend to believe more that students are likely going to be afraid of the repercussions, and they're still going to actually need to compare the resources, do their own due diligence, and look at what's available for them to actually pass the test according to the criteria or standards that exist. But even if I assume that students will over rely, the second premise that was given, the second argument that was given by government was that LLMs are inaccurate. And even if I were to take this at the best case scenario of government side, I think quite early on, opposition already mentioned, due to the nature of it being inaccurate, that's why it will actually make students want to fact check even more. But even if there's such a heavy, there's such a really bad, compared to the others, it's really, really inaccurate. It makes me think that if that is true, why would the students also be able to access the other technological tools before encountering the same problem? And then wouldn't it then the benefit that you actually want from the prime minister, which the students will go through the hardship to look for the answers, will actually still materialize? Because it's actually very inaccurate depending on what you ask. You will actually have the students work more in that sense. And I think because of these two premises not being characterized or illustrated to me properly how it looks like, especially when it needs to come to me that how LLMs are so different that there's such a big problem right now that you need to solve. I tend to believe that number one, there are going to be development even if not more, at least on the same level of at least on the same level if the students utilize the existing tools. And that means that there's not sufficient harm enough for me to believe that students will not develop, and students will develop, at least even if they use ChatGPT. So based on that one, the main issue, I gave that issue to the opposition side. But second issue, right? Will there be sufficient check and balance? I really wish that this was actually fleshed out more in the debate. However, it became quite secondary from both sides, and I think I already mentioned previously, because this is quite tightly integrated with the first issue, which is that government mentions that how government painted to me throughout the whole debate was that plagiarism checkers, for example, as mentioned by government whip, is that it's insufficient now because existing plagiarism checkers actually use resources and plagiarism checkers for ChatGPT for resources and ideas, which is actually harder. Again, not enough illustration or explanation to me how that looks like or what's the distinction between plagiarism checkers that exist. If anything, it then explains to me, or at least highlights to me, that there are efforts for plagiarism checkers to exist. And I think this was also pointed out by opposition side that yes, it's not perfect now. However, standards or criteria, or even just the rubrics of the courses can be actually implemented by individual universities if they deem fit. And I think this is where then Gov needs to come and tell us why then, even if, for example, universities have their rubrics or have their own standards, it's not going to actually cater towards the main problem, which is that ChatGPT is very flexible, for example, or ChatGPT is such a powerful tool that the resources that universities have are not sufficient to combat this, because you not only have when ChatGPT came out to the public was ChatGPT 3.0, now it's actually ChatGPT 4.2, 4.3. You have it integrated into Bing, you have it integrated into a lot of other apps, for example. There needs to be an illustration for me to believe that ChatGPT or LLMs are such a big problem that no amount of existing check and balances are going to actually allow for ChatGPT to not be misused, or universities will not be able to properly check when the students do it. On those two issues, and mainly being whether or not there is going to be development, I give the debate to opposition side. Okay, now it's 11:52. Yeah. If there are any questions, you can ask now. If your team wants personal feedback, yeah, you can approach me, I guess. Is it clear?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does any team want personal feedback?
Thank you.
If not, I will just.
Thank you.
All right. So, okay, so just to confirm, no one wants personal feedback. I will just leave the room.
Yeah, I think no, thank you.
All right, awesome. Good luck on the next round.